right, welcome LinkedIn Live viewers, and welcome to the podcast listeners who'll be listening at a later point. Those of you who are watching live may say, okay, I saw Bryn Tillman in a little banner, and I don't think this is Bryn. Hair may be similar, but but definitely not. So I am thrilled to have Tamika Brunetti with us today. I can't remember where we first ran across each other, or whether it was in Sales Navigator community or what the deal is. But she's a long time both Sales Navigator evangelist, user, um, you name it. So welcome to the show, Tamika.
Thank you so much, Dan, for having me. I don't know where we cross paths either, but we're here. So, and I'm excited to share a little bit about my perspective of the tool. Um, Today, I not necessarily utilizing the tool on a daily basis. I've
Understood.
switched areas. I'm now back into program management. I'm a program project director with Equinix in the transformation office. So I get to work on some really cool enterprise wide programs now.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And I know everyone in the Sales Nav community, though, still knows you, and we're commenting when you said you were going to be here. And can you talk just a little bit about your involvement with Sales Nav when you were more active? Because did I hear correctly? Were you like a virtual meetup organizer, one of about four in the world or something? Did I see that right?
Oh, that's correct. So prior to where I am today, I was with CenturyLink, now Lumen Technologies, and I was running their LinkedIn Sales Navigator program. And so I was
Gotcha.
hired essentially to evangelize the tool. And in order to do that, I needed to know as much about the tool as possible. And so I reached out to the customer success manager at the time, Kritika Gupta. I have to give her a shout out because she indulged me over countless hours of answering questions, designing plays and processes, and more. And also, I'd like to shout out my second CSM. Her name was Laura Zupan. She helped me expand the program beyond just sellers into the customer success side of the house. And so, with their support, that's how I really got involved in the sales. Actually, it's the sales solutions community now. Um,
Mhm.
so that it's evolved into that, and so I've been able to, um, speak on webinars, and I've had the opportunity to be a meetup organizer. We've kind of gone dark, but I'm hoping we come back, with that. So,
Very
life
cool.
gets busy.
Yes, believe me, I totally understand.
Mhm.
And I was going to start with and we will come back to the question about why you recommend organizations use Sales Navigator. But you mentioned something just now about expanding the use of Sales Nav at CenturyLink from just the sales folks to customer success.
Yes.
Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, we are all sellers, marketers, and recruiters, regardless what our role is.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of proposed to the president at the time, who was over customer success, that we needed to do that. We needed to give them insight as well because they're being expected to help with the retention and
Mhm.
to essentially upsell, right? And
Yes.
so I truly believe that sales, customer success, let's just go through the list: marketing, consultants, external affairs, fundraisers, volunteer managers, anyone in the business of relationships needs to be on this tool. It's a strategic relationship builder, not a search engine.
We Wonderful. I love that because I was always thinking of it in terms of, okay, customer facing. So that goes beyond sales, as you said, anyone that's involved in customer success. but you expanded it such that it's almost public facing.
Yeah, it really is. Because
Okay.
I was first introduced to the tool when I used to work for EY and I was a consultant. Now, I didn't know half, probably not even 5% of what I know today, but I still had access and it was very helpful then. But it's anyone who is, yeah, external facing, who's responsible for, you know, bringing in opportunities, leads, quota bearing headcount. Yeah, business of relationships.
Okay. Well, I've already got my money's worth because I wasn't thinking about sales nav in that in those terms.
Yeah.
And just to be clear to our audience, even though we're super excited about Sales Navigator, neither of us make any type of money from Sales Nav. We're not here to sell Sales Navigator in that sense.
No.
But my first question was going to be why you recommend that organizations use Sales Navigator. We've been talking about who should be using it. Now let's talk a little bit about the why.
Why wouldn't you use it? That's really my gut response. It's you're hurting yourself if you're not using it. Like, this platform just crossed 1 billion members this last week.
Yep,
So
LinkedIn.
you have the
Yep.
opportunity to connect with people all over the world that you would never get that opportunity to connect with. And Sales Navigator is built off of that platform. So it's got user generated content. So everybody who goes to Sales Navigator, or actually, I'm sorry, let me take a step back. Anybody who goes to LinkedIn and is announcing that they have changed jobs, chances are they're updating their email addresses and contact information too,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So why wouldn't you use it? And then also, it just it helps you work smarter and not harder in this digital world because there's just so much information and opportunity in one place.
Mm, mm. Yes. Yes, we are definitely all deluged with information. There's a term information overload that may already be outdated. There's probably a new and better term, but the point is that we've all got information coming at us from all directions. And one of the challenges is figuring out, okay, what's the most relevant? What can I use to help me do my job more effectively? And one of the things that Sales Navigator does is it helps us parse through that information and it surfaces the information that's most of interest and of benefit to us.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the why, because I can tell folks who've been using Sales Navigator for a while, because some things are just second nature in terms of alerts and search capabilities and so forth. Can we drill down just a little bit, because there may be some listeners, there will be, who may be thinking about using Sales Navigator and they're not sure, okay, well, what is it that makes this tool so different from LinkedIn or even LinkedIn Premium? Some may be
Mm-hmm.
paying for LinkedIn Premium. They have features like, oh, I can see the last everyone that's viewed my profile for the past 90 days. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, because you can't do that on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, what else does Sales Navigator give you that LinkedIn doesn't?
Okay. Well, can I just comment on the example you just gave about seeing who's viewed your profile over the last 90 days?
Sure,
Really quickly.
absolutely.
I see that as an opportunity to reach back out to that person and say, hey, I saw you were checking out my profile. I'm actually in the process of updating it. Can you help me understand what caught your attention? Start that conversation.
Mm.
Open the door. You can be first.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I love that because we always, in our training, we teach people, hey, if someone has looked at your profile, that's like they're knocking on your front door. So if you reach out to them and say, hey, notice, as you said, I noticed you were checking out my profile, noticed you peeked at my profile, noticed you stopped by. And I love what you said about, hey, I'm in the process of updating. Can you kind of tell me what caught your attention? That is a beautiful thing. And that's one of the things I love about these, the live events, is you can go back and listen for the nuggets once again. Um, some people say, well, isn't that kind of creepy? It's like, I just looked at your profile and then all of a sudden I'm getting an invitation from you to connect. Um, what do you say to people who may not come from the LinkedIn universe and they think, well, that sounds kind of creepy.
You don't have to send a connection request. You can send an email. You can actually go to their profile, and if they've made it public enough, you can comment on one of their posts.
Yep.
Right. So there's different ways that you can address it without coming across as creepy.
Yes, yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
those who are familiar with LinkedIn already know that, hey, unlike other social platforms, if someone just looks at your profile, you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
Yeah.
that's not true of other social platforms. And so for those who've been on LinkedIn a while, they already know that, and it's not as quote unquote creepy. But as you said, there are other ways to engage,
Yes.
and they're good to be aware of, because you can actually start building relationships, as you just mentioned, by looking for content that they've posted
Mm-hmm.
that you can comment on without even sending an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you comment and tag them, they may wind up sending you an invitation to connect.
Exactly. Exactly. And so you were asking for those who don't necessarily know all the ways that you can actually benefit from the tools. Um, the couple of features that I really like about Sales Navigator is that it really helps you to take advantage of low hanging fruit. They've got those. They used to be called spotlights, but now they're embedded in the filters. My favorites are you've been the person's been mentioned in the news in the past 90 days, or they posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days, and they've changed jobs in the last 90 days. So the first and the third about the 90 days, either they're in the news or they change jobs. Send a note and congratulate them. Everybody likes to be recognized. Everybody likes to be congratulated. That's an easy win. Um, those who've posted in the last 30 days, well, that lets you know there's a high probability that they might actually respond because they've actually been on the tool in the past 30 days. Because not everybody is actually active, right? Just because
Yep.
they have a profile doesn't mean they're on here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Most people on LinkedIn are lurkers. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
Now, and I'll let you continue, but that is so key, because a lot of people don't realize that, or they're consistently posting and they're not getting much engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Since most people are lurkers, they are consuming your content a lot of times. They're just not letting you know it, unfortunately, because they're
Right.
not commenting or they're not reacting.
Yep.
But keep posting. S-
Yes. You're so right. Because they're either a lurker, an engager, or a creator, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then also what I really enjoy about the tool is that it allows you to build, sustain, and maintain relationships. So for example,
Mm.
trying to build relationships with maybe a prospect or a decision maker, right? I create lead lists. I use all kinds of lists. Um, I don't even have access to an enterprise license anymore, but I purchased my own and create lists because you never know who you want to meet, right? It's all
Yes.
about building relationships. So I will use filters like they've been in there less than a year at their company, less than a year in their current role, second degree connection because they're a friend of a friend, right? So I'm
Hmm.
not too far away. Um, they've changed jobs, they've posted on LinkedIn. So I create those kind of lists. And then I look for connection points. Are we in shared groups? Do we have mutual connection? Those types of things. And then when it comes to sustaining relationships, so maybe the example that comes to mind is you received a new account and it's a dark and dim account,
Mhm.
right? So you've got a list of contacts. Don't know if it's really outdated or not, but you can go create a list with all those contacts and then start seeing what their activity is like. And then you can start engaging with them. And hopefully you can become like a household product, household name, become Clorox, right?
Ah,
You could, if the person you're trying to meet post things, you can comment on it, react on them several times,
mhm, mhm,
let them get familiar with your name because they receive those notifications that say, hey, Tamika reacted to your post, Tamika commented. So that's going to prompt them to react, right? And so when you do that for a little bit and then you send that connection request, there's a better chance they're going to be like, ah, that's just Tamika. Like Clorox, right? I became a household name. So you're no longer a stranger.
This is one of many firsts. Um, thinking of myself as a product like a Clorox. Now, but it's cool, and I will remember it.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. But so true.
Mhm.
Um, good. Now, you mentioned a couple of different aspects of relationship. I remember you mentioned three things. I just want to make sure you were able to cover all three in
Yes. So
terms of
the
those.
So the third one is maintaining those relationships. So a
Mhm.
lot of instances you're being pushed to go deeper and wider in accounts.
Yeah.
So why not create lead lists specifically by those different functions within an organization? Because most of the time, software sellers are going towards people who are in IT, right? They're not looking for other areas when they
Mhm.
should. So if I sell um, tools that support HR professionals, I need to start building lead lists with people who might be working in HRIS or HR delivery services because they're the ones who will probably implement the tool
Mhm.
and train their peers on the tool,
On the tool.
right? Those are your business stakeholders. So that's where you want to start creating those other lists so you can go deeper and wider.
Great.
Hmm.
Great. Yep. Well, Tamika, I, for one, am going to go back and listen to this on replay. I love it.
Sorry for all the giggles.
No, no, no worries. No worries. Cause, if it were just me, it would kind of be flat. And Bryn is usually on, so there's no challenge with it, with things ever being flat. So, so
I
it's
really
great.
enjoy it.
It's great. So one thing you mentioned was the opportunity for referrals. At least you alluded to it when you mentioned second degree connections, and that okay, there's a common connection there. And I know one of the things we always talk about is what we call social proximity, which is just one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn and Sales Navigators. They show you the chain of relationships
Hmm.
between you and other people, which is one of the things that I think Reid Hoffman and the founders originally had in mind when they started LinkedIn. It's like a Rolodex on steroids for those
Yes.
listeners who don't have to look up what a Rolodex is. Um, yep. But anything you'd like to say just about, okay, you see that someone's a second degree connection. Do you approach the person you have in common? And especially if it's a high value prospect, do you approach the person you have in common yet and say, hey, do I see you're connected with this person? Or how do you go about leveraging that relationship?
So when I see those opportunities, I have to weigh the the level of closeness I have with that actual connection point. Because I can't just go to everybody and say, "Hey, I saw you're connected to the CEO. Can you give me a warm introduction?" No,
Yep,
because people are
exactly.
putting their credibility on the
On the
line as well,
line. Yep.
right? So that's how I approach it.
Very good. Very good. What we will recommend a lot of times, because many times you will have multiple shared connections. And since we're not mind readers, you know how well you know each of those people, but you do not know how well your prospect knows each of those people. So what
Correct.
we'll do many times is send out a note, the same note, to several of the mutual connections and say, hey, I noticed that you're connected to Tamika on LinkedIn, and I plan to touch base with her um, within the next couple of weeks. Would Do you have the type of relationship with her where you feel comfortable introducing us? Some of those may just drop to the ground and get no response. Another person may say, like many of us, I'm connected with her on LinkedIn, but honestly, we've
Mhm.
never talked. We're just connected. Another person may say, Tamika, I'm going to see her at a chamber meeting in 2 weeks. We see each other all the time. I'm happy to connect you.
Mhm.
And then another person may say, I kind of know her a little bit. I'm happy to make the connection, but so now you have a choice. And who are you going to choose? You're going to choose the person who say, hey, I'm going to see her in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And so you ask them for the introduction. Well, what about the person who said, well, I'm happy to introduce you, but I'm not really, I'll try. Email them back and say, hey, thank you so much for offering to make the introduction. I found someone who is closer to Tamika and is glad to introduce us as well. Please keep me in mind if I can introduce you to anybody in the future.
Yes. Always close the loop and pay it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. Now, the time is flying. If it's okay with you, I've got time for a couple of quick questions if you're good with that.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked about a number of features on Sales Nav. Are there one or two that when you were really active on the platform that you found yourself using over and over and over again?
My
Like,
favorite, hands down favorite, is Smart Links.
oh, so
And I
glad you
wish
mentioned.
it was available for all licenses.
Yes.
My favorite.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason why is because you can just do so much with it. You can, instead of sending an email with attachments that either will end up getting quarantined or don't make it through the firewall, you can package everything up so nice and neat in one link, up to, like, I believe it's 15 assets, and share, and also um, kind of orchestrate the story that you want, the way that you want people to actually engage with the content that you're sharing, because you could rename files.
Mm,
So I just love that tool.
yes, we do here. I'm so glad you mentioned that tool. Um, One thing that is worth looking into, I just haven't had time to. Um, it's not available to holders of a core Sales Navigator license. I understand that an individual can buy an advanced Sales Navigator license, and SmartLinks is available to any advanced user.
Oh,
So now it costs more. I don't know. I forget what the price point is for advanced, but that's something that I wasn't aware of before and I just became aware of. So those who really love smart links may say, well, I'll pay the extra $50, whatever the figure is,
right.
just to get smart links, even though I don't have an enterprise license anymore. So just something to think about as far as whether it's a possibility, because I didn't know that myself until recently.
Good to know. Good to know. I'll
Yep.
have to check it into that.
Yep. It's not news to most people on the call that Sales Navigator changes every once in a while. Are there any tips that you have as far as just keeping up with changes? Sales Nav has gotten better about notifying us about changes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say they're better than LinkedIn. Just saying. But any advice you have just as far as okay, how to keep up with
For
changes?
me, it's all about, I painstakingly go through those statements of direction. It's like the roadmap. to
Mhm.
understand what has just been released or what's on the future roadmap. But the community is the best place to go because you can, people are from all over the world using the tools so differently. You can answer questions, ask questions. There's challenges, but then there's also the community within the community. And like I see
Mm.
Scotty Robbins on the call. He's in my little community within the community. So that's the best way to do it.
Ooh. Ah, yet another nugget. Thank you, Tamika. Yeah, that because again, and I feel like I've been living under a rock because I hadn't heard the term community within the community, and that is so powerful. That's again worth the price of admission right there. So that's just something to be aware of. Take advantage of the resources and form relationships. Because I noticed right off the bat you called him Scotty. I said, okay, these folks know each other. Yep, yep. So cool, cool. So two last things, and these are quick. I promise. Is there anything in terms of features of functionality that you would love to see added, or anything you've kind of been saying, can y'all please bring this? Now they are bringing some things when it comes to AI that are going to be wonderful that
Mhm.
can't quite talk about yet. But anything that comes to mind for you in terms of what you'd love to see?
Well, of course, it has to do with smart links.
Very cool.
So, as a person who ran a program for a very large program for a corporation, it would be great if there was a capability for admins or another role that could be created where they can create smart links and share them with others who can then duplicate that as their own smart link. Because as it stands, if I create one, share it with you, and you send it out to say, Scotty, I get notified.
You get all the notifications. Yep.
You don't get the notification and you don't get the insights. So if you just think about sales professionals, super busy, always running up against a deadline of some sort, if it's a seamless process, couple of steps, couple of clicks, better chance for increased adoption. Otherwise, not everyone's going to take the time to download the content that's in that smart link if it's made downloadable and then recreate their own.
Yeah, that is so true. That is an amazing suggestion, and that's one of the ones where you say, well, why haven't they done that before? Because
That
I
was the
know you're not the
number
only person to ask for it.
Well, that was the number one pain point I would hear from the sellers and customer success folks.
Gotcha. Yep.
Mhm.
And one thing I neglected to highlight when we were talking about smart links, we talked about the fact that you can send multiple pieces of content and so forth, is the tracking and the fact that you get notified when someone opens it and you get to see exactly what they're looking at and how long and what's of interest and who they've passed it on to.
Yes.
And even years later, because it's happened to Bryn, someone popped open a smart link of a proposal that she sent them that had no contact over the years. That person did not contact her. All they did was open the smart link, look at it, bring out the notification, followed up with them, turned into business.
Love it.
So
Love it.
that notification aspect is super, super valuable. And thank you, Scotty, for doing all this research for us. This is awesome. I'm looking at him in the chat. Let me
Scotty's
show
awesome.
this. Thank you. Indeed. Indeed. Now, to wrap up, for folks who want to learn more about you, Tamika, or more about Equinix, or more about how to get your digital swagger on, tell folks how they can follow up with you, contact you, however, whatever you prefer.
All right. Well, I invite people to connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. My contact information's out there as well. So LinkedIn's where it's at. That's the single source of truth for Access to Tamika.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, Tamika, thank you so much for making this time. This has been absolutely awesome.
Well,
Really
thank you.
appreciate it. Yep, I had not realized that you had worked with, I know CenturyLink is a large SalesNav user, but EY, I think, is one of the largest
Hmm.
SalesNav users in the world.
Yeah.
So greatly appreciate your insights. This has been awesome, and I hope we're able to do it again in the future.
Thank you. I had a blast, and I look forward to doing this again.
All righty. And to our viewers and listeners, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye now.